My name is John Whitman. I'm a 4th degree black belt in Krav Maga. I've been training for about 18 years. I'm the president of Krav Maga Alliance, and I also own a Krav Maga facility in Los Angeles called Focus Self-Defense and Fitness. It was 1991. I had, not in that year, but previous to that, I'd been in some pretty rough experiences. I'd had a gun put to my head, I'd been in some fights, and I wanted answers. I wanted to know how to defend myself in some bad situations. I'd been in fights before, typical fights, but I'd been in a couple that were pretty bad, including one robbery where a gun was put to my head. And I was looking around for what I considered to be a practical self-defense system, one that answered some of the questions I had based on my experiences. I looked around at certain other things. Some were, in my opinion, bad. Some were mediocre. The only system, for me at least, that answered all the questions I had about realistic training was Krav Maga. Obviously, the more you train, the better you will get. But Krav Maga as a system is designed for short-term training. The assumption built into Krav Maga is that people won't have time to become career martial artists. You can actually master the basics of Krav Maga and certainly get the approach and the attitude in 8 to 12 weeks, assuming you're training a couple times a week. Now, to understand more technique and to get into higher level and higher risk training, you have to be with it longer. But you'll learn the basics against the average street attack in a few months. It takes you from 0 to 60 faster than any other system I've ever seen. Or you could put it this way, that it brings you to a high level of proficiency quickly. That's what Krav Maga does. Good. Now slowly, please. Good. One more time. Good. All right, let's discuss what's going on. James is the attacker. His hands are on Nikki's throat. By the time she realizes she's being attacked at all, this is the danger. She has to address this immediate danger of her windpipe being crushed by his thumbs. Instinctively, her hands are going to fly up to where they feel pain. So her hands are going to want to do something similar to our technique. They'll fly up where they feel the pain. Instead of grabbing, though, you can make a technique as though you're grabbing an improper technique. Instead of grabbing, which is a little bit closer to instinct, we're going to modify that, and her hands are going to become like hooks. Hold your hands up and out a little bit. Her thumb's part of the hook. Her hands are bent, and she's going to reach in deep, not just with her fingertips, all the way up to her wrists and close to his thumbs. Immediately, she's plucking out along her shoulders and then down a little bit, trapping his hands. Do that, just that motion slowly, just slow motion, the pluck. Her hands are like hooks. The thumb is part of the, good. Do it a few more times. Good, one more time. If you'll notice, relax, hands on the throat. When Nikki goes to pluck, she's going to get close to his thumbs. She wants this because the closer she gets to his thumbs, the more leverage that she has. Now, the nice thing about the instinct part of her reaction is that she doesn't have to see where his thumbs are. She goes where she feels pain. That's where his thumbs will be. So she reaches in deep and close to his thumbs and plucks out for maximum leverage. The farther, thank you, the farther up James's arm she went, the worse her technique would be. But she's not doing that. She stays close to the thumbs for most leverage. Now, this makes the defense one more time, just the defense. Good. This is a good defense. She wants to hold on to his hands. Notice at the end of her pluck, Nikki is trapping James's hands so he can't get free. Now, he might struggle to get free, but at least for the moment, his hands are trapped and he can't use them. Make the defense and the counterattack. Now we're adding the counterattack. She defends and counters simultaneously. She starts out in a passive or neutral stance. As the attack comes on, she plucks and kicks to the groin at the same time. Her hands are occupied. Her legs are free. She gives a groin kick. From here, she follows up. The knees, maybe more groin kicks, punches, whatever feels like it makes sense to her. Go back. Watch how close together the pluck and the kick are. I'm going to get just that a few more times. Nice. One last comment. Notice how Nikki is not trying to kick James with any certain part of her leg. She swings her whole leg at his groin. If she gets him with her toe, maybe he's a longer person with longer arms, okay. If she gets him with her shin, fine. Her knee, whatever she gets, she gets. But she doesn't have time in the moment to try and gauge her distance. So her whole leg goes. Good. Now finish up. Good. The last thing to say is to go back and talk about that plucking action one more time. Notice how Nikki is not pausing at all. It is one fluid motion from beginning to end. Good. One more time. Nice. Good. Hold on. So now we work on a situation where the attack is the same. It's a choke from the front, but now the defender is being pushed back. The defender has to react to both the threat to the throat and being off balance. The attack and the defense look like this. Again. Good. Slowly, please. Good. So let's break this down. The attack comes on, and Nikki, don't defend yet. Slow attack and freeze. By the time Nikki realizes she's being attacked at all, she's in this position or something like it. She's off balance. Before she realizes what the nature of the attack is, she's already off balance. So even though she's feeling pressure at her throat, she might feel the need to put her hands up. She's also dealing with being knocked backwards. Her hands are going to fly a little bit. We turn that reaction into our technique. So as she's falling back, Nikki's going to take a small step with one foot and stab the other foot to the other hand to the sky. Good. Stab to the sky. Her bicep is right near her ear. From this position, a sharp rotation to break the plane of the attacker's wrist. From here, she drops her elbow down to trap his hands. Then it's an elbow to the face, followed by additional counterattacks, taking control and finishing. Again, make the attack and freeze. Good. From here, Nikki takes a small step back, not a big step. A big step is unrealistic. Make a big step. A big step, if you could do it, it might help, but in reality, when you're surprised, you won't pull this off, or you're unlikely to. So we'll come back. We train to take a small step, which is more realistic, and stab our hand to the sky. What you want to think of is bicep near your ear. The bicep goes near the ear, and from here, Nikki makes a very sharp turn right across the plane of James's wrist. Come back. If she were to have her arm farther away from her ear, and she made that same turn, it would be farther up James's arm, and she might succeed, or come back. James, bend your elbows even a little bit. If James makes his arms a little bit stronger, Nikki tries to defend from here, and she's not going to have the same success. But, go back, bicep to the ear. That guarantees she's going to make leverage right at the attacker's wrist. She makes that same sharp turn, and she breaks the hold. It's not relevant to the choke that his hands are near her throat. There's no pressure anymore. Now, she wants to get the hands away from her so they're not bothering her. She drops an elbow down. Other hand comes up to catch. From here, elbow back to the face. Good. Finish. Good. One more time slowly. Good. Now slowly. Good. One more time. Good. So in this attack, choke from the side, we're following principles that are already familiar to us. Hands are on the throat. Nikki has to address the immediate danger. She uses something based on instinct. Her hands want to fly to her throat where they feel pain. Her hands are going to move. But now we use the outside hand only. The inside hand won't do us much good. Her outside hand is like a hook. Thumb is part of the hook. She makes a pluck explosively. Good. Again. Good. If you watch, just like the other technique, she's reaching farther than she needs to, and she's ripping down. This time, the motion of her arm is about 45 degrees across her body in a quick motion to pluck near the thumb. Good. Last time. The only thing technically to be aware of is that you don't want to make the pluck and roll your hand away from your body. Make that mistake, roll your hand away from your body. The truth is, you actually get some leverage on the attacker's thumb, but your motion of your body is not as strong. So we make a strong motion of our body. She drags it along her chest. Good. That's the pluck. Now, as with everything in Krav Maga, simultaneous counterattack. So while she's plucking with the outside hand, inside hand makes a groin strike. Palm faces the target, ripping up and under. Go. Good. Again. Good. From here, immediately after that initial counterattack, ripping upwards with an elbow. There are a couple of options for elbows, but the one we prefer, the one that seems most natural to us, is the groin strike, boom, and an elbow straight up the side. Go. Good. Again, one more time. Good. From here, stay right there. From here, Nikki's going to continue with counterattacks, probably hammer fist to the side of the head, catching and finishing with knees. Good. Again, one more time, the whole thing slowly. Good. One quick comment. James, make the attack. Nikki, make the initial defense and counterattack, and then freeze. Go ahead, make the elbow. Now, from here, there are several ways you can grab, but what we like to show is catching, make the catch the way you just were. Yeah, right there, freeze. Getting to the near shoulder. This prevents James from trying headbutts if he's thinking about headbutts. Go back, please. Make the initial defense and counterattack, and then freeze. If Nikki were to reach across to the other shoulder this way, there's some danger as she's transitioning, go back right into the middle, as she's reaching across, that James headbutts her or drops in for a bear hug. He has some openings. Hopefully he's hurt too much to take advantage of them, but he has some opportunities. We try and deny him those, so Nikki makes the defense and counterattack, gets to the inside, yeah, and then she finishes from there. Good. Choke from the side. Good, now slow. Good. All right, again. Now, this is choke from behind. Although the technique looks a bit different than choke from the front, it follows the same principles. So the hands are on the throat. James has to address the immediate danger, and his hands want to fly up where they feel pain. So he makes hooks out of his hands. He reaches back as far as he can to make sure he gets the hands, and he plucks down explosively. Good. There's no pause. Again, it's one fluid motion, straight down. Now it's 2 elbows to his stomach. One more time, please. Good. Notice a couple details. Not yet. As James is making the technique, he's tucking his chin, which is fairly instinctive, and he's rounding his back. This gives him balance and exposes the thumbs so he can make the technique. Make just the pluck again, please. Good. Now, this isn't enough for us. We have to start changing our position. So as James is making the defense, he's also stepping diagonally back into the side to A, get out from in front of the attacker, and B, line the attacker up for his counterattack. One more time, the pluck and the step, please. Good. Now, do me a favor, James, go to the other side, pluck and step the other direction. Good. Now from here, go back. Simultaneously, as James is making the pluck, his inside hand is traveling down. He lets it continue to go, and he's making a groin strike as he's making the pluck. Go. Good. Again. Slow motion. Good. The groin strike is usually made palm facing the target, hitting up and under. One more time. Good. From here, James continues with counterattacks. The next most logical may be an elbow, probably to the face, possibly to the midsection, but we prefer going up to the face if we can. Boom. Turning in and finishing. Good. Watch a couple details. Make the initial defense and counterattack, and then freeze. From there, watch when James turns. If he can control the situation, he wants to turn inside to the inside shoulder, counterattacking as he turns, but getting to the inside shoulder. James, come back, please. It's possible, but not preferred, make the initial defense and counterattack. For James to turn to the outside and go to the other shoulder, freeze. The problem with this is that James tends to go across several of the attacker, Brian's, weapons. So what he wants to do is defend and counter, turn to the inside where he's safer and get more immediate control, and then finish. Good. Last comment to make. Make the attack again, please. Slow motion. James's feet. Diagonal step, counterattacks, and watch his inside foot. It steps out a little bit to avoid Brian's feet and legs. Good. One more time. Good. One more time live. Good. Choke from behind. So now, we're going to take this idea of choke from behind and add a push to it. So the attack is the same, the initial threat is the same, but just like before, when we had choke from the front, we added a push, now we add a push from behind. So now Brian attacks James, chokes him, but also shoves him forward. Make the attack live, aggressive defense. Go. Again. Good. Let's keep going. James, when you make the defense, keep your arm closer to your ear longer. Don't worry about giving him an elbow. Keep your arm straight and close to your ear a little bit longer. Go. Do it. See, not this. Turn in your place. Keep that bicep wedded to your ear. Turn, and then you can move around. Better? Good. Good. Again. Do a couple more. I'm going to tire you out. Good. Again, one more time. Good. Now slowly. Good. One more time slowly. Whoosh. Whoosh. Good. All right, so the attack comes on. Just make the attack, push him forward a little bit, and then freeze. Good. Again, by the time James realizes he's being attacked at all, he's in this off-balance position. He has to be able to react and function from here. He's falling forward. His hands might fly out to stop his fall. He makes a small step with one foot, and the opposite hand stabs straight ahead, bicep to the ear. From here, he makes a sharp turn in his place to affect the wrist. Perfect. Now from here, he has to do two things. He has to finish regaining his balance. He steps back. At the same time, he's throwing a counterattack. Good. Catching, finishing with knees. Kicks, whatever seems appropriate. Come back. Again, go to the vents and stop. Freeze right here. Good. This is our initial motion. From here, you want to make sure that when James makes the defense, he affects the wrist. If James were to try and roll backwards toward Brian, he would get stopped. Bicep to the ear, sharp turn in his place. That's what defends the choke. From here, James is going to step back with the inside foot and counterattack. Good. One more time slowly. Good. Choke from behind with a push. Good. Headlock from behind. Specifically, a bar arm. The headlock comes on from behind. If I had time, I would tuck my chin early. Even before the headlock came on, if I realized he was here, relax your hands. If I realized the attack was coming, I would tuck my chin. I'm going to assume right now that I don't have that time. I'm totally surprised, and this happens to me. From here, my hands are going to want to go where they feel pain. I make my hands like hooks. I pluck explosively. I reach as far back as I can. Not right to here, farther, so I get momentum, and I pluck. I reach for both his hands because this is where there's an opening. There's no help for me here. This is where he's the weakest. Both hands go like hooks as far back as I can, and I pluck down explosively. As I'm plucking, if I have not already turned my chin, I pluck and turn my chin. Adding to that, my hands go and pluck, my chin turns, my shoulder drives into him. My hips are going to drive out a little bit. I focus a lot on my shoulder, turning in. I am interested in making this space right here, that space. I want to take the headlock, hold stronger, from here to there. At the same time, chin turns, shoulder drives. Now there's enough space. I slide my head out. Stepping out to get some balance. Knees to the midsection, knees to the groin, kicks to the groin. If it's available to me, knee to the head, knee to the face. Finishing with whatever techniques seem appropriate. The danger in this attack is my throat being crushed. It's not quite a carotid, it's not quite a blood choke, it's my windpipe. I have to address the danger immediately. Here, and then I'm sliding out. One common problem about this angle, when I make the defense, as I said, this shoulder, the inside shoulder, drives in toward the attacker. What I'm not doing is taking the outside shoulder away. Watch, if Andrew chokes even a little bit stronger, and I try and take the outside shoulder away, I take myself into the choke, I hang myself. Instead, I pluck, and the inside shoulder goes into him to help create space. From here, I'm sliding my head out, stepping, and finishing. Good. Headlock from behind, bar arm. Okay, so let's break down this technique for a minute. What is happening when the headlock comes on, most often I'll be pulled back a little bit. So I like to do all my training being a little bit off balance. If you're on balance, great, but let's train as though you've been pulled back aggressively. The headlock is coming behind me. My hands are like hooks. My thumbs are part of the hook. I reach back as far back as I can, not right to where the hands are, farther to build momentum and to ensure that I catch his hands. Both hands fly back, boom, and pluck down explosively. This is the action of the hands, this motion. I reach as far back, and I rip down, plucking, not grabbing. As my hands make the pluck, my chin is turning, if it hasn't already turned. So my hands go back, and I'm turning my chin. And if you watch, the motion of sending my hands back and turning my chin already encourages my shoulder to turn in. I want that. Now I make that happen explosively. Hands go, chin turns, and my shoulder drives into him. My legs are working. I'm pivoting on my outside foot. My hips are going to turn in, and they're going to bend a little bit to make this action. My whole goal is to create a little bit of space between his headlock and my throat. Once I have that space, as long as my chin has turned, I'll be able to slide out. If I keep my chin out, it may get caught. This is what I want. Hands like hooks. Sharp turn. Once I slide my head out, I'm catching, and I'm finishing with combatives. Headlock from behind, now a carotid choke. The attack is very similar. The defense is very similar with some changes. The attack comes on, and now instead of this bar arm we discussed earlier, where the pressure's on my throat, the attacker grabs deeper. My throat is in the crook of his elbow. The pressure comes from the sides now. For me, the main change is the weak part of his attack is farther away from me. My hands have to reach farther. When I reach as far as I can, I still reach for his hands, and I pluck, and make almost the exact same defense. All the basics are the same as the bar arm. Two differences. On the bar arm, because the weak part, the joint I'm looking for, is so close to me, my hands tend to reach at about the same time. No problem here. By the way, on this defense, if they reached 1, 2, it might be okay. But because the weak part of this hold is so close, they tend to go at the same time. When I'm defending against the carotid version of this attack, I'm going to let the close hand go a little bit sooner. I'm not delaying this hand. This hand goes as fast as it can, but this hand will arrive sooner because it's closer. So the rhythm you create with your pluck tends to be a little bit more of 1, 1.5. The reason for this is that if I send both hands simultaneously, both hands will tend to reach only as far as the short hand can go. And that, make the choke deeper, that may limit my reach. So I'm always sending the near hand freer. As soon as it can go, as fast and as far as it can go, then the other hand follow up to make a defense. Now, this hand should get there as soon as possible. It's not 1, stop, 2. It's as soon as possible, but you will hear a small rhythm of one hand reaching and the other hand following up this way. The other variation in my defense is this. In a bar arm attack, the pressure's here, the hold is closer. I tend to pluck straight down along my chest. In this carotid version of the attack, I tend to pluck more along my shoulder. You can think of this as a difference if you'd like to. It is a difference in my body position, one down the chest, the other down my shoulder. But the truth is, as far as physics go, it's the same. Because what I'm doing against the bar arm is plucking 90 degrees to the hold. What I'm doing against the carotid is exactly the same, plucking 90 degrees to the hold. So even though it's a different part of my body, in principle, it's the exact same technique. Everything else after that is the same. Sliding my head out, finishing with counterattacks, neutralizing the threat. The breakdown for this defense against a carotid headlock from behind is very similar to the bar arm. My hands go back like hooks. The thumb is always part of the hook. I reach as far back as I can, and I pluck down. The only difference is I have to be sure to reach as far back as I can, because the weak part of his hold is much farther behind me, possibly well over my shoulder. So I reach as far back as I can, and the rhythm becomes more like 1, 1.5. One hand goes, the other hand follows up. At the same time that I'm making that pluck, I'm fighting to turn my chin. Keep in mind that he's got a forearm on one side of your neck and a bicep on the other. So the turning of your chin might not happen until you've begun to make this pluck, but you're still fighting to turn your chin the whole time. Reach as far back as you can, pluck explosively, turn your chin. As those two things are happening, you're driving your shoulder just like the other technique, into him as much as you can. Trying to create that space between his arm and his body. Here, so I can slide my head out. Hands like hooks, reach as far back as I can, turn the chin and drive the shoulder. Here. From here I'm sliding out, catching, and finishing with knees, kicks, elbows, whatever combatives seem appropriate in the moment.